Hey everybody, this is the day after this live was recorded, and the live went about 31 minutes and it got cut off because we had some connection problems. But the good news is everybody liked what I was saying so much that they have asked for a day two. So we're going to continue day two, part two of this discussion that happens in the video you're about to watch on the next day, which will be live from day 20. So enjoy the talk, and when it cuts off abruptly, don't worry about it. The next one will be coming.
All right, how we doing? Y'all doing okay? All part of the adventure. Welcome to my life. We are running against the wind. And so everybody hit like again. We got to start over. Everybody got to do their likes. They got to get in there. They got to do this and that. Great to have you from Grand Prairie. Great to have you from all over the place, y'all. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Glad to be back. This is it. We are running against the wind. And so that's the topic for tonight. So, I was going through and I was talking about the fact that it was so windy today. It was brutal. And just trying to keep my motivation up, keep my energy up. Starting yesterday, I said, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm going to have fun. In the last 5 days, we've had one day with winds less than 30 miles an hour. And so it's been kind of brutal. Today was really brutal. Pigs kept getting out. Tore up a bunch of stuff. I started putting the corn that I soak and ferment for them into the granary where the door closes, so that every time they get out, they wouldn't just eat all the corn. They got into the granary and ate all the corn. All the corn's gone. So it was just another day of the paradise of chasing pigs. I didn't have to chase them as bad. I got them in there. Fixed a few fences. I fixed a bunch of fences. Fixing is the word you put for however long it lasts. Got into some philosophy about all of this, the challenges, the constant battles. You think you got things fixed and you find out where they got out and you get in there and you're doing all this stuff and they just tore things up again and ate all the corn. And then you get them back in and you get the fence fixed and you get the gates fixed and you go and you sit down and you're like, all right, I'm ready to get going. And you start the dishes or you start doing something and 2 minutes later, they're out again. Can't figure out where they don't even know where they got out. They don't even know. If you chase them with a stick, an intelligent creature would go back to where it got out and get back in, but they don't know where they got out. They can't find it. But if you put them back in there, 2 minutes later, they're out again. So it's always a challenge. And then, so yesterday, a rehash of what happened yesterday. We got a snake in the chicken house, ate one of the chicks. So this morning I thought, something's up because last night I went to go check on the mother hen. We're going to call her Bernice. She's a great one. And so very chopping here. I'm hoping you're not talking about the internet. I hope the internet's fine. Y'all let me know how the internet is. How's the picture and how's the sound? Anyway, so last night I couldn't find her. And the chicks were gone. And she was not on the eggs. And so I'm like, oh, well, she ran off somewhere because she didn't feel safe with that snake. And she's got her chicks hid somewhere. So I guess she's going to be okay. So this morning I went in there. I found her. I found the chicks. She had them out. So I moved her into our chicken tractor. And another hen got in and sat on those eggs and is sitting on those eggs that were already under her. And so I'm cool with that. So I'm going around. Well, nobody else has answered. Audio and picture is great. Okay, good. Anybody else, hit like and then let me know how the internet is. So I I get her into the chicken tractor and I start going around, and it's a pretty nice little chicken tractor we built. And I realize it's falling apart. It's just falling apart. It's just old and it's weathered. And the problem with the chicken tractor is if it's not like tight, then coons will get in there and just eat what's ever in there, including the chicken. So one whole wall had pulled away from the corner and there was like a 4-inch gap. And I was like, oh, here we go. So then I ended up spending an hour fixing that chicken tractor. But I got it fixed. Went back inside, started doing the dishes. Pigs got out again. Got them put up, fixed a couple places in the fence. My mind is turning, right? You got to be thinking, what in the world is going on? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. In this world, you will have trouble. You will have resistance. You will have difficulty. And that's the thing. The world, and by the world, I mean the world system, is designed to keep you comfortable so that you don't ever face resistance. And what resistance you do face is not resistance. Great to hear about the audio and the video being good. The resistance you do face is not resistance from doing good. In other words, you meet resistance even though you're trying to do things that are bad for you. People don't get a raise. COVID comes around. Resistance, and we had a whole show where we talked about this. Resistance is actually what makes us vital, makes us viable creatures. Resistance is what the reason we can stand up is because of resistance, because the gravity in our weight, which is a result of gravity, causes our muscles to develop so that we don't just slouch into a big gelatinous mass. Resistance is what strengthens us. Resistance is what creates our immune system and makes it stronger. But we don't want it. And so we actually fight against it. And so when things like this are happening, what I try to do is I try to find out, what is God trying to show me? What is God trying to tell me? And people are very confused about this. First of all, I realize a bunch of you are atheists or whatever you are. I don't care. You get to talk about your opinion. I get to talk about my opinion. So I try to figure out what God's trying to do in this, because there is nothing that happens. Zero things that happen that don't pass through God's hands. And it's according to his permissive will, anything that happens to me, anything that happens at all. And so I'm sitting here and I am constantly being barraged during this challenge with things. I could sit down here, if I wasn't doing this challenge, I could sit down here for 25 days in a row, 35 days in a row, 45 days in a row, writing books thicker than your coffee table, right? And I don't ever have to chase the pigs. Pigs just don't get out. But I decide I want to do this, and I decide I want to video it, and I decide I want to do it by myself. And so I'm trying to do this, and we're running out of meat, and we're running out of gas, and we're running out of our water's getting low, and the pigs are getting out, and the chickens are getting eaten by snakes, and all this stuff. And so you have to ask yourself, what's God trying to tell me? And people are very confused about that. Those that believe in God and providence of God, etc. And so we have basically two different things that it could be. It could be a test, or it could be a chastisement. Chastisement is the Lord loves me like a child. You chastise your child. It's a spanking to make them better. It is grievous for the moment, but in the long run, It makes you better. And a chastisement is directly related to the thing that you're doing that's wrong. And so a lot of people, I just see them go off into left field and they don't even have any idea about how God works and all that. But if you're a father and you have a child, you don't just spank them or chastise them or scold them and not have them know what it is they did that was wrong. There's a direct relation between the sin or the error and the chastisement, and it's obvious. When stuff happens that had nothing to do with you, God still allowed it to happen. Hello, War Dog Hein. God still allowed it to happen. But it's a test. It's not a chastisement. If you can't connect it with some behavior, then it's not a chastisement. It's a test. Job was tested. Right? David was chastised. David could easily draw a line between his sin and the chastisement of his sin. And he knew exactly what it was. He knew that this is what it was because I did this thing. And so I can see that in my life. I can see where I'm being chastised for stupid things and errors and sins and bad attitudes and poor judgment. And then there's things that have zero connection with anything. And you're just like, what in the world? What in the world's going on? Well, it's a test. It's one or the other. It's a chastisement or it's a test. And so if you can connect it directly with a behavior, it's a chastisement. If you can't, it's a test. The great foot of a Goliath comes down and smashes 57,000 cars and kills 20,000 people. We could say that was a chastisement on the nation. We could say whatever we want to say. But the fact is, for any individual that was in that mass, it's like Jesus was talking about the Tower of Siloam falling. We're all sinners. We're all worthy of it. We're all worthy of that. But the testing is when God allows something to happen to you because you are needing to be tested. There's some part of your character or your nature that needs to be improved. You need to become what it is that you were sent to be. From the foundation of the world, God intended this. He intended what is happening to me to be happening so that I would become what he intended me to become. Now, I understand there's a lot of people out there, they don't believe in God and all that. That's their business. I can learn how to make a chair from them. I can learn how to whittle a spoon. I don't have any hostility towards them. A lot of them have a hostility towards me. A lot of them probably already shut me off because I was talking about God. But here's the thing. We are, and I say we loosely, the people, the mass, are currently suffering chastisement and not a test. COVID, whatever it is a chastisement. Whether it's the stuff that's happening, the machinations of the political arms and the ubiquity of wickedness and the powers and the principalities and authority who are making hay while the sun shines. In other words, they are grasping power in all of these ways. COVID, coronavirus, all of that stuff, the results of it because the thing is never the thing, remember, is a chastisement. It's a judgment. The wicked are chastised too, according to the scripture. It's a judgment for sin, is what it is. And the reason I know that is because we can directly relate it to behavior. We are a soft people, incapable of saying no, comfortable, affluent, apathetic, unwilling to produce, unlikely to resist. And the thing is, I see people out there, and I know who you are. Yes, Amy, the thing is not the thing. I did a whole video on it, but I will go through it real quickly. The thing is not the thing means that there's a trigger event, there's a thing that can happen, and everybody's focused on that thing, trying to figure out what that thing is, and that thing is not the thing. The results of the thing, the dominoing of the thing. So let me give you an example. A man was traveling in a car. It was a drop top car in Sarajevo in the early 1900s, and he got shot and killed. He was a prince of a nothing country that had very little to do with the affairs of the world. And in less than 25 years, 22 million people were dead because of that one guy. There is no logical from before the event looking forward. There is no reason to believe that the shooting of Archduke Franz Ferdinand would lead to the death of Clyde Sorensen from Minnesota in a field in France, in Flanders, wherever. But looking backwards, it was all predictable. Intertangling alliances. The people that were looking at the event, after the event, within weeks of the event, and they were saying, well, who killed him? Well, what was the weapon used? Well, was he involved with the anarchists? Was there a group? Was there a conspiracy? Was there all of this? They were missing the point. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. So if you had a farm in Belgium, it doesn't matter to you whether or not the anarchists did it, or whether the Germans paid for it, or whether or not who, because within weeks, armies of millions of men were going to be moving tens of thousands of miles to fight each other and die. The thing is not the thing. If you're looking at the death of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, you're missing the entire picture, because the whole thing was predictable. My mouse froze up. All right. The whole thing was predictable, if you know what you're looking for. So when I say the thing is not the thing, coronavirus is nothing. And by nothing, I just mean whether it's the deadliest virus in history, or whether it's a hoax, or whether it was made in some lab, or whether or not, doesn't matter. We have policy being implemented. We have executive orders being implemented. We have all of this stuff happening. We have people at each other's throats. We have all of this stuff happening. It doesn't matter. And so I went through a whole video on this. I'll try to find a link to it, and I'll put it in the description. Whether or not coronavirus is the worst thing that ever happened, or whether coronavirus is nothing, and now we have socialism and martial law, it doesn't matter about coronavirus, because we have the same thing. We have the same thing no matter what. The problem, the global issue of a cabal of elites now taking power and controlling masses is the issue. whether or not it's because of coronavirus or whether or not, if you can't buy meat, right before all this happened, I was on here saying it doesn't matter why people are buying toilet paper. It matters that they are buying toilet paper. Because if you don't get some, you're not going to get any. It doesn't matter why people are buying meat now. If we examine all of the intricacies of the supply chain, it doesn't matter. We have to be prepared to feed our families, to provide protein, to do these things, regardless of whether or not these are the machinations of a small group of Illuminati who are doing all this because the frogs drank bad water, or it's because this virus is causing all of this stuff to happen, and that's the result of that. In the end, you can't buy but 2 pieces of meat at the store. And so going back to the point, and the point is this. Keyboard warriors will sit out there during the in the sunshine of the concept of resistance, and they'll type on their computers and they'll be like, when are we gonna stop all of this? When are we gonna rise up? When are good men gonna do something? I am not at all surprised that the people are so weak and so this and that. And so, if you boil away all the verbiage and you boil away all the propaganda and all that kind of stuff, the point is that people are waiting for a consensus. They are not men and women of character, because men and women of character don't wait for a consensus. If you're on the keyboard bashing your fellow man because he's not rising up and marching in the streets while you're not doing it either, that's just talk. Sorry, Michael, that you have to go. Smash the like button, everybody. We got a bunch of people who have not smashed the like button. Principled men and women don't wait for consensus, but neither do they act rashly or stupidly because of some sense of misplaced patriolatry or whatever. We have these documents that talk very florid language about inalienable rights, the inalienable rights of men. You have one inalienable right, just one, and you'll only ever have one. All of the others that seem to be inalienable are inexorably linked to this one right, and that right is the right to say no and to live or die by the consequences of that. Wrote a whole book about it. This one, it's a book of philosophy, although it is a post-apocalyptic novel, and it's one of the best books you'll ever read. I wrote it with my friend Chris Awalt. There's an entire section, and I read it again before I came out here, where Lev Volkov, one of the main characters, makes a speech where he said, and it says it right here at the very top, it says, sometimes saying no is a revolutionary act. Because saying no is the only thing that you can do, that you have any agency to do. And it doesn't matter what the results are, but you do have that one inalienable right, and that is to say no. That's the thing. You can say no, but if you're waiting for a consensus, if you're waiting for America to rise up, America is corrupt to its core. The mass man does not have the character, the capacity for ideation, the ability to conceive of what freedom ought to look like. And so waiting for a consensus is an excuse and a rationalization to do nothing. The point is that when we act individually in resistance, producing your own food, educating your own children, examining medical alternatives, refusing to participate. These acts of saying no can compound. They can compound. Yes, you can get WIC on Amazon. Here's what I want to tell you about this book. It looks really, really thick, but it's totally deceptive. And let me tell you why. It's twice this thick. What we did is we realized it was going to be 800 pages and nobody would read an 800-page book. It's really not a book. It's 4 books. If you look right here, if I can get the light, there are dark lines. Those are the divisions between the 4 books. And so what we did is we made it tiny. You can't see it. Tiny, tiny print with no margins. So it would fit into 552 pages so people would be conned into buying it. It is not, this is a Lord of the Rings epic story. And it is fantastic and you'll love it. And the whole philosophy of everything you ever hear me talking about is in here. The saying no, producing. Saying no is not walking down the street with a gun, threatening the government. Saying no is just refusing to participate, refusing to do those things that are detrimental to your health and your freedom. Yeah, that's right. If you have the Kindle version, you never notice the length. Back in the day, when I was a young man, we read big books and we were not ashamed of it. Big books meant you got a lot of time with a good story and you were entrenched into it. I have a lot of them here, and I write big books and I cannot lie. But it's a great book. And I would love, one of these days we just need to do a show about WIC. It's just such a, it's such a fantastic. And by the way, WIC is the prequel to The Last Pilgrims, which was my first novel. So WIC, Last Pilgrims was written first, but WIC is a prequel to the last one. And you can read them in either order. Yeah, exactly right, Nancy. If my association tells me to remove my vegetable planters, I will be saying no and paying the fines. That's the whole thing. You say no, and you face the consequences. And so here's the thing. I need to scan up here. Choose your battles is correct. All right. And so that's the issue. Stop thinking about things as if some consensus of righteousness is going to rise from the mire of duplicity and sin and weakness and the mass man. If you're walking through life thinking a field of fecal matter is going to rise up and become the righteous purity that you expect for some reason irrationally, it's never going to happen. What you can do is you can be an individual with character and principle and just do what is right and good, including those things which involve you actively resisting. So you resist the criminal and corrupt food system by growing some of your own food, whatever you can, garden planter, whatever it is. You resist the corruption of the medical system by looking at what they're asking you to do and reasoning whether or not that's a valuable thing for you. Is there another way? I can tell you this, I have lost 101 pounds in not very long, most of it in the last 138 days or less. And a lot of my major medical, I still have allergies, but a lot of my major medical issues that were probably pretty serious have gone away.